sorry, I was just checking. One of my fingers has a nail left on it, just one. We were just the other day we said we've had the match of the tournament and it's been topped already with an absolute cracker at Headingley between England and Sri Lanka. We were scoffing at those who said, hey, this is going to be a classic, and we said, yeah, sure, classic, what time can we finish? And what a finish both the teams gave us. Ben Stokes fighting till the end. Sri Lanka were in it, then they were out of it, and finally they have caused the upset of the tournament. I don't think even Sri Lanka will mind saying that this was indeed an upset. I wonder how nervous the guests in the studio were, because we are all neutrals. Joy Bhattacharya, Robin Uthappa, what a cracker, no matter which side you were on.
What a match. I'd first like to take the opportunity to kind of apologize to everyone in Sri Lanka for saying that there was no other way that this match would go. But hats off to them. What a victory. The intensity with which they bowled, and like I think you were mentioning, just the way they built that intensity up right in the first over, where they fielded, someone dived to the left and stopped a boundary and fielded. So, you know, they had that intensity. And I told you, if Lasith Malinga is among the wickets, then these guys have a chance, and that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, Robin, I asked him for the X factor, even when we had written them off, and he said, yeah, if the X factor comes, it could be different. It was different.
Absolutely, but what a performance by Malinga. He started it, and then again, when the game was sort of drifting away, he came back, took those wickets. Yeah. The two things, one is Malinga supported by everyone else, but look at Pradeep as well. Tight situation, you know that Stokes is hitting on the other end. You have just one ball to have a go at him. You have one ball to have a go at him because he's given you just one ball and he made it count.
Yes, and while we showed you the match summary, these are the beauties of the game of cricket. No one Pradeep's name is not up there because he took that one big wicket that counted. Unfortunately, a big wicket can't get you on that card because they're talking about the highest wicket takers. But nonetheless, full marks to him. Dhananjaya De Silva came in from nowhere. At one stage, gentlemen, we thought that Dhananjaya De Silva would be the one they'd have to get through his overs.
Exactly. They're going to hide him, and then he suddenly came, and what a bowling performance from him, because Malinga, they were running out of Malinga overs and they said, you know, they threw the ball to him. You thought they're trying to get rid of overs. Look what he did out there. Right there in the middle, and the most important thing was two left-handers at that point in time. They took advantage of it, and then after that, then he got Adil Rashid as well. And
kudos to Karno Ratne as well, to have made those changes while he made them, right? To actually bowl Dhananjaya De Silva the way he did, you know, brought him on, especially on the left-handers batting, and then kept him away when the right-handers were in. You know, he made those changes beautifully at the right time. As one would think that maybe he finished Malinga a little too early, but he did it with sight that, you know, he knew that he had to get these guys out, and he bowled them out a little earlier than he would have under normal circumstances. I think simply because he was going for wickets, and that was the right way to go. That was the only way you would win this match, is by taking wickets, and that is exactly what he did, and credit must be given to him for that.
The other thing, you know, this old, you know, all these hackneyed old phrases that you're supposed to ban. Catches win matches. Catches won matches for them today. Today there were at least two outstanding catches in the keeper's catches, two outstanding catches, one great catch in the deep. They caught everything. They didn't drop anything. There was one which was a half chance. That was the only thing you could say they dropped. But that was fantastic, and that really made a difference for them. If one or two of those had gone down, it would have been a very different result.
And Robin, you know, I mean, sometimes it's not necessary that the gloves are an extra appendage. It's sometimes the keeper's catches can be tough as well, and they get unnoticed because you're supposed to catch all of them.
I thought the second catch, I think Adil Rashid's catch was, Chris Woakes's catch was, I think, a blinder. That, like, you could see him even when he's taking the catch, he's looking there because he thought it took such a big edge. It was flying to first slip, but you know, his hands were in the right position and took a beautiful catch. Credit must be given to him for that one.
Two keeper catches, and Isuru Udana catching it just on the boundary line. He was millimeters away from the rope.
His caught in bold that he took.
Oh, the caught in bowl was just phenomenal. You could turn around and say maybe that was just something he plucked out of thin air, but you need to hold on to them, and he made it look as if that's what he does, like plucking fruit. Another old cliche, but we'll take it. Let's look at the fall of wickets and just show you that England were in control for large parts of the game, but at crucial intervals. Have a look at that, 127 for 3 when Joe Root's wicket fell, and that's the time we were just still wondering whether we'd sit on the couch or not. We're not talking about anything else. But then the wicket started falling.
Yeah, and I think Butler, and I remember the way they got Butler out, that, the short mid-on, they brought in those two fielders out there, forced him into that position and then got him on the pads. It was so well worked out, putting that fielder there, giving that pressure onto the batsman. And look, at that point in time, the game is wide open. England have a long and deep batting order, but they got Butler out. And I thought that was a very, very crucial wicket, because Butler stuck around for 3, 4, 5 overs, the game was over.
The other thing that we noticed, and we mentioned it on My 11 Circle Presents Cricbuzz Live at the halfway stage, is yes, we are making England favourites to chase down this total, but the moment you get something between 225 and 245, it's turning out to be not a very easy run chase. And guess what? We've looked back at the tournament. Every time we've had those middling totals, it's gone down pretty much to the wire. Let's bring out a selection of those matches from the World Cup so far and show you how matches, not necessarily all going down to the last ball, but nonetheless, the team chasing was in a bit of strife. India, I'm sure hardcore Indian fans will say, how can you put this in the list? But they certainly had their moments of agony when they were chasing this.
Absolutely. All these matches, exactly. I mean, moment you get to the target, the problem is that the side chasing doesn't exactly know what to do. Do I go hard? Do I go? Look at this. This was such a close match. New Zealand, that, if this man hadn't played at the end.
Mitch Santner, right?
Santner
Late at night, it was a day-night game.
This was at the Oval. This was at the Oval,
day-night game.
If it wasn't, I think, for, Lockie Ferguson.
Santner and Ferguson saw this through.
And then Santner finished it off.
Came in and finished it off. If it wasn't for them, I think it would have been a hard game. I think even today, if you look at England, one could debate the fact that they probably played opposite to how they normally play. What they generally do is go on and take the attack to the opposition and go out there and express themselves and play aggressively. But today they did quite the opposite. When they lost their first 2 wickets, after 26 for 2, it seemed like they suddenly closed down. They kind of shut shop and said, okay, let us just, build a partnership. But maybe that's not the way they generally play. They actually go out there and attack and play attacking cricket. Maybe if they did that, it would have probably worked for them, because they've been playing attacking cricket for the last 2 years, and it's something that they're known for today. And today they've played completely opposite to their nature. That could also be, one could argue that could also be one of the reasons they haven't been able to chase down this score, because they've been too defensive. And you have to give credit where credit is due. Sri Lanka bowled extremely well, took all their catches, hence the result.
But what we are saying, and I think what Robin's saying and what we can read into, is that so much part of this run chase is in the mind as well. Yes, you've got to approach it in a certain way, but if your mind starts functioning differently from the way it's been, and remember they've been putting up 300 totals for fun in this tournament, suddenly they're like, oh, we don't even have to reach 300 and we win the game. Oh, great, let's go. And we'll play differently. One more match that we want to show you and take you back to, and that was another cracker, South Africa against New Zealand. And look at this. Again, we thought things were in control. It took Grandhomme to do a Grandhomme-like innings. Kane Williamson had to stay there till the end, and that's what Ben Stokes almost did.
No, absolutely. And I think if Ben Stokes had got it, that's why Pradeep's wicket was so important, that he was shielding him every time. We saw for the last 2-3 overs, he'd been taking runs, he'd been refusing singles and taking runs in the 4th or the 5th ball. First time he did it 5th ball, next time he did 4th ball, he survived 1 ball. This time he did again 5th ball, and he said, okay, just 1 ball, you've got to see it out. And that ball was such a beauty, because see, the temptation when you have a, number 11 batsman is to bowl on the stumps. You always hope that you can get an LB or just go through his defenses. But he held it outside off, and the batsman just put his bat out for the nick. And these are such important decisions to take, because, you know that the moment the ends change, Stokes is going to have another go. Maybe the target will come down to 10, 11, then anything can happen.
Let's just show you if the numbers support what our theories were about England taking a different mental approach. And I suspect it probably will, because if you have a look at the progression of their innings and you see that second quadrant, 3.8, first 10 overs, fine. They may not have wanted to lose those 2 wickets, but fair enough, they steadied the ship after that. But then 53 for 1 in all those overs at a run rate of just 3.53. That's when they'd like to have been going at an even 4.5, 5, perhaps.
Yeah, 4.5 would have done the trick, perhaps. I think wouldn't have put them in such a hole that they dug themselves into. Right, with 3.5, they really dug themselves into a hole. And if they lost wickets under those circumstances, it's always going to put a lot of pressure on the batsman coming in. And seems like that is what happened. They kind of dug themselves into a hole and then lost wickets, and then it was too much for the lower order batsmen to kind of do. Like we started today talking about the middle order collapse of Sri Lanka, And seems like we have to discuss England's collapse in the middle order today at the end of the day.
Because the only change in the pattern, while we gave you examples of all those close matches, did you notice one difference? Today was the first time that the team defending actually won.
Yes.
In all other occasions, the team chasing actually huffed and puffed over the line. Today they huffed and puffed but stopped.
No, and the other interesting thing I was looking at is if you see the ninth wicket fell on 186. That means you got a 28 run stand towards the end. I mean, 26 run stand towards the end. So 26 runs is quite a lot of runs. They could have been all out for one. They could have been 40 off. And that's how much of a hole England had dug himself into. In fact, Ben Stokes batted really well to get them to within 20. And then, of course, he ran out of luck. Gave him one ball he couldn't defend.
Now, before we go any further, since Robin decided to apologize to the Sri Lankans, I have to do my own little bit because we all talked about my mustard jacket, which, by the way, is very close in color to Sri Lanka's away jersey that they were wearing today. And I said that the maker of this jacket, his theme or his mascot is the underdog. And I had to reveal the underdog if the underdogs did well. They did well. So here, let me reveal what it looks like to you. Okay, here it is. Have a look. If you can see it there, that's the logo.
Yep.
It might look like a bit of a fox to you, but it's actually the underdog. Right, there we have it. So the underdog was revealed. I'm glad I didn't promise to do anything worse than that.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I've heard of editors. So I remember one of the famous stories where Rohit Brijnath had said, he talked about Leander Paes winning a match, and he said that he's a great player, but if he wins this match, I'll eat my words. So they actually showed, a picture in the sports, I think in Sports World it was, sitting out there with the paper and knife and fork, he's eating his article.
Jeffrey Boycott too did it once. I'm not sure what the issue was, but I was around.
On ESPN Star Sports.
Yes, it was on the show, and there's something that he said will never happen, and he actually sat down there and munched on a piece of paper. So that's
nice.
I got off easy, but yes, the stalwart, the legend, Lasith Malinga. We still remember memories of 2007, but now come back to 2019. He's still there. He's still playing. The hair's still colourful, and he's still taking wickets. He's still getting those Yorkers in. My 11th circle, most valuable player. Look at those figures. 10 overs. 39 dot balls, 4 wickets for 43, 4 crucial wickets. Could even have had a fifth, but that really turned the tide. It was not, I don't think it was only the 4 wickets. It was just the fact that he's that inspiration. Everybody else around him and said, if he's doing that, we need to take our catches. We need to do our thing.
Absolutely. He just didn't allow them to go. And the most important wicket was the one right up front. Johnny Bairstow, because Bairstow has this habit, Bairstow bats for 5, 6, 7 overs and the game's already gone. Momentum's gone. That wicket slowed them down, Root came in and then, they just stopped for a bit, and that again allowed that lower, run rate to happen. Malinga started it, Malinga accelerated it. He was glad there was somebody to finish it off.
Yeah, he almost ended it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know, I think there's Kusal Mendes in the deep. He would have
Yeah,
dropping that, not dropping, but probably not reaching that catch. It would be unfair to say he dropped it, but not reaching that. He would have, I'm sure the entire Sri Lankan team and him included would have wanted a five for Malinga, but I think he bowled exceptionally well. I think Sri Lankans fielded exceptionally well, and they really backed their bowlers. And Nuwan Pradeep, I think, is an unsung hero. Well, that first spell for 12 runs.
Yeah, let's look at it from England's point of view. Now, how do we assess this? We were saying that even if they were to get over the line, narrow victory, they'd still think of it as a very harsh wake-up call. As it is one. The only difference is they don't have the 2 points in the bank. But the bad news for them, the good news is that they've already started winning a few games. How about having a look at the schedule? Where do they finish with? These are the 3 teams that they have left. Australia, India, and New Zealand, potentially all 3 fellow semi-finalists.
Yeah, and you have a situation, so you've got 8 points, right? Mm-hmm. Now with 8 points, 10 is dodgy. You may not qualify, okay? 12 is safe. So that means they have to win 2 out of 3 between India, New Zealand and Australia.
And all 3 are technically losable games.
All 3
Yeah, for sure. I think all 3 are technically losable games, but they find themselves between a rock and a hard place right now, and they'll have to really play aggressively. They have to play in a manner that's most truest to their nature to come out victorious. And if they have to beat these 3 potentially World Cup winning teams, then you'll have to play your best version of yourself, and each one of them will understand the responsibility that they have going into those next 3 games. I think they wouldn't look at it as 3 games. I think they would look at it as 1 game at a time. And let's cross this first hurdle, finish that, rest up, let's cross the next hurdle, finish up, rest up, let's cross the third hurdle. I think that's how they will perceive it. That's how they should perceive it if they want to move forward and not take too much pressure and let the pressure affect them. But it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that first match, because it'll actually show character as to if they can how well they can deal playing under pressure, and if they go on to qualify to the semi-finals and then go on a win, then they would truly be world champs, because they've come back and within this tournament itself come back twice, beat the best teams, and then gone on to win the World Cup. Then they would truly be worthy of being called world champions.
Yeah, and that the first of those 3 games is Australia just before another Ashes home season. It's going to be absolutely massive.
It's going to be a cracker of a match.
At Lord's.
Absolute cracker of a match, and I think everything up, if they're going to be up for it, and I think it's put the edge to the game, because otherwise that clash would have been, say England had banked their 10 points, their 5th win today, that wouldn't have had such an edge. Now it's really going to be tight. But look at it. If you see that points table now, Australia's on 10. The only guys who are really unimpacted by this rain is Australia, England and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, because they've had 2 washouts, they've gone to 6 as well in even numbers. So basically only Australia, if there's no more rain, Australia, England and Sri Lanka are the only ones in even numbers. My suspicion is that if England gets to 10 might just be enough for a 4th place finish. 1 out of 3 they'll need.
And how bizarrely the tables can turn. We were almost pushing Sri Lanka over the edge and out of the tournament. Suddenly, because of the schedule, England are looking like potentially they might finish on 8 points because they've got 3 tough games. And Sri Lanka can actually finish ahead of them on 10 or even 12. Because if you look at their 3 remaining opponents, there's South Africa, who already eliminated. You don't know what they're going to come up with playing for just pride. West Indies, unpredictable. And then when it comes to the 6th of July, yes, India is the one tough team that they have to play like England, but then, it could be just...
But the point of it is they may not need an India win. They could reach 10 points and qualify. They might not read the India win at all. I mean, they could win 2 out of 3 and go through, and if Sri Lanka goes through, it will be one of the most magical stories of the tournament. I mean, it would be like Pakistan in 1992. What else can you say?
It certainly will be. What does humble pie taste like?
Okay. I know what humble pie tastes like, because humble pie, the origin of humble pie was... Seriously, and I'm not joking. In medieval England, when a deer used to be killed, so the king got the choicest pieces, the first choicest pieces of the king. Then the next pieces, the other pieces went to the nobility, the knights, then to the religious people, the priests and all. So the intestines were the only things left. So they used to call them umbles. So intestines, you can't eat like that, so you just have to, you can't make it like a piece. So you sort of put them together, bake them, and that's humble pie. Humble pie is basically intestine pie.
It's not humble pie, it's humble
pie. Come on, let's have a round of applause for that.
I didn't know that as well. Thank you, Joyda.
Thank you.
So that, folks, if Sri Lanka were to go on to qualify, given everything we've said from the start of this tournament, is what all of us are going to have to collectively eat here. We'll have a little feast on this table, the table which will have turned by then, and we'll talk about all that if they go through. But that is exactly what we've asked for, we've craved for, we've prayed for, that it's not going to be 4 teams through to the semis and everyone else bye-bye. It's still very much alive and kicking, which also means that every time we come to a new game, you have to continue to pick your My 11 Circle team. It gets harder and harder because there are going to be new choices. And of course, for a start, we're going to talk about our Beat the Expert champion before we remind you of how to play that game. And that is Sandeep Kumar from Rajasthan. And what a score he's at, 622 points.
Oh,
there were tough ones to choose from today. Because remember, you may not have expected to take the England lower order. Would you take Moeen Ali? Would you take Jos Buttler? And I'm sure he made the right choices and beat the expert, as in Sourav Ganguly. So we'll give you another reminder of how you play that game when the big one comes. And talking about the big one, yes, India are back again. They've had a few days to think about it. There's been a bit of rain around Southampton, but that weather's clearing. And now they're going to be taking on Afghanistan at the Hampshire Bowl, the Rose Bowl, call it what you like. And suddenly, India will be thinking that you can't take anyone, not that they didn't think that always, but don't take anyone for granted.
No, I think under the current Virat Kohli's leadership, I don't think anyone's taking anything lightly. I think they're taking everything extremely professionally. I think they will go in there as favourites, obviously, but they will go out there and play to their potential. One can be sure of that. They will go out there and definitely play to their potential, because there are boxes that they want to tick. Now Shami will probably be playing his first game tomorrow, so they he'd want to go out there and have a good outing, make sure he bowls his quota of 10 overs, has a good day out on the field. So that will be there. KL Rahul will want to get used to that position a little bit more, score a lot more runs going ahead into the tournament. So I'm really looking forward to both of these performances because I think they'll really want to go out there and make an impact.
One question was possibly going to be Vijay Shankar because of a slight injury scare, but he came and he said that things are all fine with him. So do we consider any possible team changes, assuming that Vijay Shankar is not going to be replaced?
I think it's only if Bhuvi is not fit. In any case, even Bhuvi is 50% fit, I don't think they'll risk it.
Yeah,
I think Shami will almost certainly play tomorrow. And yes, the only other thing I can think about they might look at is just like they want to try out KL Rahul. I mean, Vijay Shankar, where he's bat with, they put him at 3, give him a bit of a run, allow him to maybe get an opportunity to bat because he's the guy who haven't tested out and they'd like him to also get some, time under the bed, get something there.
So no real, changes in the 11 other than the obvious ones, but if anything, up and down is what you'd want to look at.
No, yeah, I don't think they'll be looking at too many changes. I think they've made the changes that they've had to in the previous game. Now it only would be from player to player. I think they would go with more, like for instance, Bhuvi's injury. If he's even, like I agree with Joyda, if he's even 50% fit, I think they would essentially go with Shami to make sure that Bhuvi is fit for the forthcoming matches.
What about Afghanistan, the team in strife, the team in turmoil? Can they do something? Can they be inspired by the Sri Lankan victory over England and say that if they can, we can too? Their last outing was against the same team that Sri Lanka beat and they didn't put on a bad show. Yes, they had too many runs to chase, but they actually batted out their 50 overs and that'll at least give them some confidence going to Southampton. Let's have a look at their lineup. How they would have wished that things hadn't gone wrong. Mohammad Shahzad was still there. He can always be an X factor. But do you think Hazratullah Zazai, assuming there's no fitness issues, just gives them that impetus up front?
Yeah, I think they need another batsman in there. And though they played out their 50 overs last time, which is able to them, so they're the kind of bowling India has. I think they'd probably pick one more batsman. I think they're really struggling because Ikram coming in instead of Mohammad Shahzad means that you have a keeper who doesn't bat. And that's a real problem for them.
Pretty decent bat, Joyda. He actually opens the batting, but I don't know if he's been opening here.
Yeah, he was batting at 8 or 9.
He's batting, I think, down the order. He's a pretty decent batsman. He actually opened in the Under-19 World Cup that just happened. So I'm pretty certain, and he even got a 50 there opening the batting against the Australians.
Okay, then so I've got something wrong, but it's fantastic.
Batsman, but I don't know what. I definitely would like Zazai to be there, but where would you accommodate him is the question. Right, you'll have to sacrifice an all-rounder or a bowler. And I'm very happy that Askar Afghan's back in the squad, and he's doing well. He got I think a 50 in the last game, if I'm not wrong. And he's someone who's done well, so he's got a point to prove as well, because they've left him out of the side after removing him as captain. So I think he's really doing well. I think he will inspire a lot of the other guys to perform well as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see tomorrow's lineup. I'm not quite sure what they'll go with, but it will be interesting to see who they turn up with on the field.
The other thing, just to finish off on the England issue, is of course they were thinking, okay, here's 2 points in the bag. We can then look ahead with a clear mind to Lords on the 25th of June. But Jason Roy would have been there. One question, Owen Morgan said, we're not sure if he's still fit for that one or not. James Vince hasn't quite looked the replacement.
No, he hadn't looked the part at all. Not yet. Maybe it's just too much to say. He got 26 runs last time. But more than 26, they were unconvincing runs. He doesn't look completely comfortable out there. And of course, he had some big shoes to fill. Jason Roy has been such a performer for England, so it's difficult. But given the way England thinks, they will give him an extended run out there because I don't think they really have an option. And they don't, you could say they could open with Moeen and all. I don't think they're going to tinker at all because typically when going into a tournament at this stage, I don't think they'll try anymore.
If they tinker, then you know for a fact that they've panicked. Because only a team that would panic would tinker. A team that isn't panicking, a team that is sure of itself, will not tinker, will stick to their backup options as their backup options. They will not tinker with that. Because if they tinker with that, then management is panicking.
Owen Morgan, are you listening? If you tinker, you will sinker. So please don't do that. Robin Uthappa has spoken.
I'm pretty certain they won't tinker. Knowing their team management and knowing these guys, I've played with a couple of them and I've worked with TB, so I know that he's of the mindset that you give someone a run long enough, and it's not like he's been bad in the last. I thought he was better in the last game than he was in this game. James wins. I thought he was more aggressive in the last game. There was more intention in the last game than there was in this game. Definitely, I felt that that was a lot more visual. You could see it actually, but this game he seemed a little timid. But that happens. I don't think they'll change it. I think they'll only change. If Jason Roy is fit, then they'll change wins for Roy. Otherwise, I don't think they'll make a change on the top.
When you share a dressing room, you often tend to refer to somebody by initials. So TB, of course, is Trevor Bayliss, just in case you were wondering. Right, speaking of not tinkering, I tinkered with my 11 Circle team quite a bit, which is why I ended up not doing very well. Ben Stokes went out, Moeen Ali went out, and there was no Dhananjay De Silva as well.
GB went out.
So a couple of games tomorrow, remember. So when it says select a match, you select two matches separately. One is India-Afghanistan, and the other, of course, is New Zealand versus West Indies. So this process remains simple. Get those games going, and two separate games. Choose them all. Beat the expert champion will be chosen if you can beat Saurav Ganguly. That is Dada Ka Vada. Now, if you had been watching our show, you would know that one of our experts, not in the studio today, Zahir Khan, is extremely excited about the second match of the day because he says potentially it could be the match of the tournament at this stage because West Indies caused this upset. In addition now to what Sri Lanka have done to England, it really opens up the tournament completely. So I think, we like to root for underdogs anyway, underdogs, but rooting for the West Indies tomorrow will really open things up.
Well, yeah, for their sake, and for the sake of an exciting tournament, yes, you definitely want West Indies to do well tomorrow and beat New Zealand. And I think it'll make for a very interesting pool table after that. It'll really open up, where everybody stands and who stands a chance, and it'll be a little run for the finish line. Then that last 50-meter dash is going to happen. So suddenly the last 3 games of the tournament of the league phase becomes very, very exciting. But we as Indians, I don't think are very new to that feeling. We deal with those emotions on a yearly basis, and I think this year we're getting to deal with it twice maybe. So it'll be good for us.
What I liked is when it's this time of night, you refer to the points table as pool table. Lovely. That's what we're headed next, maybe. All right, let's check the pool table out. I mean, it's being rephrased right now for the moment because it is. It's a pool because that's what it is, a new format as in 1992. And this is where things stand for New Zealand and the West Indies. New Zealand was sitting pretty on top. Now they've just slipped 1 place to 9 points. And what if the West Indies now in 6 games get to 5 points? That means 3 more matches potentially for them to get to 11 points. That's what
I think West Indies right now, they have only 1 win. So basically they can land up 5. They can win all 3. If 3 left, they could go, they're on 3 right now. So they could go logically up to 9. So if they go up to 9.
Up to 11.
Up to 11.
They're on 3.
They're on 3
win
right
tomorrow.
Now. And they've got 4 more games left.
4 more games left.
4.
Yeah, okay,
including
fine.
tomorrow.
4 more games left.
Yeah, but so if they win 3 out of 4, they're on 9, which also could compete. At some point in time, 9 could come into contention. But I'm telling you that the thing about the West Indies is you have 3 explosive batsmen. You've got Lewis, you've got Hetmyer, and you've got Puran. 2 of those 3 get going, something can happen. So far, what's happened, Shai Hope has played his part pretty well. Gale has also not been this thing. Gale is an important part, and he hasn't really been the force that he could have been in this tournament so far. He's not going to sign off without giving you something special because odds on this is his last World Cup. I think he's going to tell himself that, okay, I have just 3-4 matches to make an impact in this tournament. I'm hoping for a big one from the big man.
Indian fans are saying, what is Joy talking about? They're playing the West Indies, so let it be in this match and not against India. But any possible changes for the West Indies lineup? Because they have tinkered occasionally. They've had this ping-pong game or this seesaw happening between Darren Bravo and Evan Lewis. Now, Evan Lewis seems to have established his place in there. So could you possibly see maybe a Kemar Roach given a look in against New Zealand?
Instead of whom? Instead of Shannon Gabriel or O'Shane Thomas or Sheldon Cottrell. I think Shannon Gabriel is the only choice there. But would they make that change? I'm not quite sure. They probably would. I don't think it would be a bad idea to bring back Ashley Nurse as well. because Andre Russell isn't...
The insurance for Andre Russell's overs.
Yeah,
You
the
need
insurance.
that
You need
sixth
that.
bowler. Yeah.
You need that sixth bowler to give you that, because Andre Russell is not going to bowl you his 10 for sure. He's going to bowl you 4. He should have been bowling 4 from the get-go. But obviously, Jason Holder thought Andre Russell is the real Superman. But he is Superman
He's
with a
got
bat.
human knees.
Yeah,
He's
but
Superman
got
with
very
human knees.
But despite the fact that he bowled so well, I think they got carried away by that first spell.
Yeah, I
against
just think it was the
Pakistan.
first. See, the thing is, he's gotten quicker, right? But his knees haven't gotten stronger, unfortunately for him. So I think, you know, he's also hasn't played one-day cricket for so long. So not just bowling, standing out there in the field for 50 overs is also going to take a toll on your knees, right? So, and it's not just like, even if you're batting, you're going to be batting for 15, 20 overs. It's not like you're going to be batting for 12. If you're batting for 12 overs in a T20 game, you've batted a lot. So if you're batting, otherwise he's batting for essentially 7, 8, maybe 6, 5 overs.
Sometimes less. He's got a quota.
Yeah, and then he goes out there and he creates such an impact, right? So that's when he dons that Superman cape of his. But when he's bowling, he's got very human knees, like Joyda said. And I think that if the sooner West Indies get aware of that fact, the better for them, and then they will make those changes accordingly. And I think that's what they need to do. I think they need to bring in another all-rounder, preferably a spinner, so that there's a change up there. Otherwise, it just gets too one-dimensional with fast bowlers bowling, and then they seem to be going only with that, the short ball, the short ball length to most of the teams, and that's become too predictable, I believe. So I think if they have a spinner in their ranks, it might just help them out and give them a cushion just in case he can't bowl more than 4, which I think he won't be able to bowl more than 4.
So they have the option of both Ashley Nurse and Fabian Allen. Remember, Fabian Allen has shown that he can bat a bit, so I'm sure they'll consider him, and he's a lightning quick fielder. So something for the West Indies to think about when they talk about the man with the kryptonite in his knees. Yes, Superman has little injections of kryptonite in his knees. New Zealand, should we even look at that, because they don't make changes to their team? But just for the sake of form, let's have a look at the team that's been identical for 4 games, and that shows some consistency.
They will not change their team. I think they're going with the tried and tested formula of make the least changes, and if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, don't fix it, I agree.
If it's not broken, they won't fix it. They're very, you know them, and when you interact with them, you understand that they're very, simple, clear-headed, straightforward people, and they will not mess with something that is not broken.
Yeah, every time Kane Williamson comes to the toss and he's asked, did you consider Henry Nicholls, Ish Sodhi, Tim Southee? He said, we consider them, they're great guys, but if you can't get them in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, the only change, and they will not consider it, I think the only change they would look at any team who plays against the West Indies, I believe, it's always great to have a leg spinner, because they just don't play leg spin at all. But then who's the guy you take out? Because Santner has been so vital for them, not just as a bowler, but as a late order batsman, stabilizing batsman.
Underrated lower order batsman.
So they can't.
Only possibility would have been one of the 2 all-rounders, and they've been doing a good job for them.
Grandhome has done a job.
Tim Southee is sitting out for crying out loud, and he's someone who's played a lot of World Cups, so I'm not wrong. Yep. He's played this, I think it's his 3rd World Cup, if I'm not wrong, from 2011, 2015, and now. So he's sitting out. So that goes to show what good form this team is in, and how much they believe in their players, and how much they believe in sticking with the guys who are doing the job for you, and trusting them with the faith of the group, and saying, okay, you guys are doing well, we'll continue with you guys, we won't mess around with it. Let's just keep going. This is one tournament that happens once in 4 years, play the best players.
Suddenly emerging, not just because of their dark uniforms, but dark horses. We always talked about them as a 4th team. Suddenly, as it evolves, we'll be talking about them ahead of certain other teams. Well, we did have one stickler for you. That was another Joy Factor question. So, Joy, do you want to take us through it again? I know I gave
it's not the Joy Factor question. Today, it's a Gautam Factor question, because you said the question, all yours.
All right, let's just remind you what the question was. And it did concern the same 2 teams at the same venue in 1983. When England played Sri Lanka in 1983, Graham Fowler had a fabulous run chase. Sri Lanka didn't bat their 60 overs. They batted only 50 overs. They were dismissed for not too much. Paul Allott took 3 wickets. Ian Botham took 2 wickets. But the man who took just 1 wicket in his 9 overs was given the man of the match for his captaincy. They clearly said it's for his field settings and for everything he did from the start of the game that he was given. Yeah, he bowled 9 overs for 9 runs, but it was for his captaincy. Robert George Dillon Willis for his captaincy.
I always laugh at it. I say Mike Bradley never won a man of the match for his captaincy. Probably the most astute captain he ever had. And Bob Willis, who actually did very well under Mike Bradley when he gave up the captaincy, wins man of the match for captaincy. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's quite a funny man on social media. I wonder what he would have had to say about that many years later. Let's see who our winner is. And I was looking through it, and I did see Siddhant Khajuria come up very quickly. I think it was about a minute, less than a minute. Sid RK27 came up with the answer. Yes, it was less than a minute indeed, and many others followed 30 seconds later. So thank you, Joy, for letting me into your territory.
All yours. Brilliant question. Absolutely. Lovely question.
And just by the way, that Chris Tavare thing that we mentioned was in the same game that he hit his second and last 6. Once every 600 overs, he hits a 6.
Oh, that was the game?
Yep, that was the game. He hit a 6. He scored a quick fire 18 of 43 balls.
Chris Tavare at one time in Calcutta was, you say you want to sleep, you can't sleep, watch a tape of Chris Tavare batting. That's all you need.
Yeah, they also actually said that about Ravi Shastri when he batted 5 days in the test match. But never mind, we shall leave that alone. There's been so many talking points today. It's been a massive upset. Sri Lanka beating England. The table's wide open. We call it the pool table right now, not the points table. We've had some fun. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Robin. Love the new moustache. Love the new look.
Thank you.
And I think it brought Sri Lanka some luck. We'll see you doubleheader tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. India versus Afghanistan in Southampton. And we'll also keep an eye on New Zealand and the West Indies. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.